Mr. Sujata, SST educator, and today we are going to learn the subchapter the French Revolution and the idea of nation from the very first chapter of the class 10 CBSE history, that is the rise of nationalism in Europe. So in this chapter previously we have studied the introduction, how the people of France and the people of Europe were walking towards the idea of nationalism, how nationalism was developed in the European countries, but it was very shorter. So in this chapter we are going to learn in very detail in the subchapter the French Revolution and the idea of nation. So we'll begin with the French Revolution. We'll see that the French Revolution, which took place in the 1789, it was the very first clear expression of the nationalism which took place in the France. It means the French Revolution took place in 1789, because during that period, means till the 1789, France was the full-fledged territorial state which was ruled by the absolute monarchs, by the rulers, and during that period when revolution took place in 1789, people of the France abolished the monarchy. They overthrown the power of the rulers and the kings and the monarchs and declared themselves as a republic nation. Not only declared the republic nation, but the power which was controlled by the monarch and the rulers was also transferred from rulers or monarchs to the people of the country. It means the people of the France established the National Assembly, declare themselves as a National Assembly. So you can relate this point with the class 9th first chapter, that is the French Revolution we have studied in the class 9. So you can connect this point with the French Revolution. You will recall that people of the France during the period of revolution gathered on the tennis court and declared themselves as a National Assembly, undertaken the work of the drafting constitution. So all those things took place during the period of 1789, and it was the French clear expression of the nationalism which was seen in the France, and people of the France also transferred the power from monarchs to the people. So this event took place in the France, but it was not a sudden event. For that there was a vast background. It means the revolutionary people, nationalist people of the France had undertaken many of the activities which could develop the sense of nationalism among the French people. So you will find out that many of the revolutionaries of the France, nationalist people of the France followed the ideas and the practices which could develop the idea of nationalism. This point you will find out in your textbook as a measures and practices introduced by the revolutionary people in the France to develop the idea of nationalism. So what measures and practices were followed by the revolutionary people in the France? So number of different ideas were practices among the common people which could create the sense of collective belonging and the idea of nationalism among the people. So you will see that among the measures and practices, it was the first practice of the la patrie and les citoyens. It means the French nationalist people followed the idea of la patrie. La patrie means the France. Their country was considered or imagined as their fatherland. And les citoyens means the people of the France, citizens of the France or the people of the France are the citizens of the France. La patrie means France as their fatherland, and les citoyens means people of the France are the citizens of the France. So it could connect the nation and the people, could create the bond between the people and the nation. So the ideas of la patrie and les citoyens were practiced in the day-to-day life of the people. Second thing was that the notion of united community and the equal rights. During that period, nationalist people developed the idea of a united community who could rule by the same government or one government and could enjoy the equal rights within the society, social equal rights, political equal rights. Such a type of equality was brought among the people in their social life also and in their it was tried to bring in their political life also, so they could enjoy the equal rights also. Through this also they tried to develop the idea of nationalism. Third major and practices was that the new French flag was designed for the France, which was in the tricolor and was replaced by the royal standard. It means previously, before the revolution, when France was ruled by the absolute monarchs, by the rulers, that time the symbol means the royal standard was the symbol used by the monarchs and the rulers in their hand. It was the symbol that their ruling or power is concentrated within their hands only. So when the constitution was drafted, when revolution took place, after that revolutionary people designed the new flag for the France, which was in the tricolor, and the royal standard was replaced by the French flag. This was also one of the unique idea to develop the idea of nationalism among the French people. Next practice was that when people, means you will relate this point with the class 9 French Revolution. In that chapter we have studied that people of the France, when their demands were neglected by the by the monarchs and the rulers, by the estate generals, that time the people of the France walk out from the palace and they gathered at the tennis court ground and declare themselves as a national assembly. So during that period, common people, representative of the common people came together. They established the national assembly, which was established by the elected state generals and renamed themselves as a National Assembly of the France. So this National Assembly was elected by the common people. It means power of the France was transferred from monarchs, from rulers, to the common people, to the National Assembly. Third thing was that to develop the idea of nationalism during that period, writers, authors composed different type of hymns which could develop the idea of nationalism among the people. So hymns were composed commonly on the public places. Oaths were taken to liberate their country, to liberate the France. Also martyrs were commemorated by the name of nation. Their sacrification was commemorated by the people. For what? To inculcate the idea of nationalism among the French people. Next practice which was followed by the revolutionary was the centralized administrative systems were introduced in the France, because during that period France was the full-fledged territorial state where there was a lot of diversity. Languages were different, so their measurement units were different. They were ruled by the princely states on the different regions which were placed by the monarchs of the Bourbon dynasty. So on these places, or in these places, centralized administrative systems were introduced by the National Assembly. Not only centralized administrative system were introduced, uniform laws, uniform regulations and the rules were also introduced, so that people could imagine themselves as a people of the same country, people of the same nation. Not only this, administrative systems were also made uniform. Internal custom duties and the dues were also abolished. Then serfdom system was also abolished during the France, and more people were given the freedom. They were liberated by the National Assembly, by the revolutionary people, by the nationalist people. Not only this, last was the regional dialects were discouraged. France was a diverse country. It was ruled by the many princes which were placed by the Bourbon dynasty and their emperor. So there was a lot of diversity in each region. Different languages were spoken, different dialects were spoken. So during the period of nationalism, regional dialects were discouraged and French language was declared as a common language of the nation, which was usually or largely spoken in the Paris. So these were the ideas and the practices which could create the idea of nationalism during the French Revolution, and these were the measures and practices followed by the revolutionary people, by the nationalist people. Further, after the revolution, revolutionary people declared that it was the mission of the revolutionary people to liberate their country, to liberate their people from the monarchy, from the rulers, and to provide them freedom. So it was the mission of the revolutionary people. So as this idea of the French Revolution spread in the various cities, in the towns, so the movement did not remain limited to the France only and to their cities only. Idea was spread throughout the European countries also. So during that period in the France also and out of the France also, many of the young people of like-minded whose ideas were same, they came together and they established their political associations, which were generally known as a Jacobin clubs. So what were the Jacobin clubs? Jacobin clubs were the political associations which were formed by the common people of the France and the people of the other countries also. So during that period, Jacobin clubs also tried to develop the idea of nationalism among their countries, among their regions, and for that time and again they used to came together. So they were the Jacobin clubs could work, they work in the France also and out of the France also. So Jacobin clubs did not only spread the idea of nationalism, they came together, also formed the people's militia. They formed their own army also, and their army means the army which was established by the Jacobin club did not remain limited to the France also. It began to move in the Holland, in the Belgium, in the Switzerland and the part of Italy also. So they did not only move in these countries to fight. They spread the idea of nationalism, developed the idea of nationalism out of the France also. So Jacobin clubs and their army were found outside of the France also and developed the idea of nationalism. So it was also one of the important work done by the Jacobin clubs that they could create the idea of nationalism, and it helped to develop the nationalism during the period of French Revolution. After the Jacobin club, it was the period of Napoleon. When Napoleon came into the power, he brought many administrative changes in the administrative field. So what type of administrative changes he brought in the administrative field? The first thing was that he introduced the Civil Code of 1804. Civil Code of 1804 is what? It was the new act passed by the Napoleon government through which administrative systems were made easier. Uniform laws and administrative systems were made equal everywhere. Currency was made equal everywhere. Transport and communication systems were also made easier in those regions of the France which were controlled by the Napoleon. So whatever rules and regulations he introduced during his period, all those rules and regulations were introduced in the areas which was controlled by the Napoleon, means in the France also and out of the France, wherever he expanded the territory, in those territory also the new administrative systems, new laws which were introduced by the Napoleon were introduced there. So he also introduced, but when he came into the power, first thing was that he abolished the democracy. He abolished the democracy and introduced the dictatorship in the France, but in the administrative field he made many reformations. So first reformation was the introduction of Civil Code of 1804. Civil Code of 1804, why? So it was the new law which made the many changes in the administrative system, was launched in 1804, which is also known as a Napoleonic Code. So under this Napoleonic Code, what changes were made by the Napoleon? Administrative systems were changed. Rules and regulations in each region were made equal. Then uniform laws were introduced in every regions. Standardized weight and measures were introduced. Means during that period, whatever trade was there, it was carried out from one place to another place, and while traders, businessmen used to carry out their goods, their goods have to load and reload on the every custom barrier. For what? For the measurement and to impose the taxes. So on that every custom barrier, their languages were different, their measurement units were different, and their currencies were also different. So it was a time consuming work for the traders and the businessmen. They have to load and reload their goods on the custom barriers and could create the barriers in their trade activity. So to avoid these, to consume their to decrease their time or to reduce their time, Napoleon introduced the Civil Code of 1804, in which he also standardized the weights and measures. Weights and measures were made equal everywhere. Currency was also made equal everywhere. So it could consume the time of the traders. Means there was no need to measure the clothes and measure the goods again and again and to pay the taxes. Custom dues were also made uniform. So it was easier to the traders and could create the scope for the traders and businessmen. So it was done under the Napoleonic Code in 1804, which was introduced by the Napoleon. And it was not limited only to trade and business. It could create the scope for the peasants also, for the artisans also, for the traders also, and for the businessmen also. Why? Because it could create the scope for the transportation of their goods, of their material from one place to another place. So peasants, traders, artisans, businessmen were enjoying this new form freedom which was introduced by the Napoleon, which was formed by the Napoleon. So these all were the changes, or all were the revolutionary activities introduced by the Napoleon. But in the another way, he also curbed the civil liberties of the people. Whatever army was established by the Napoleon was moving throughout the France, in the Belgium, in the Switzerland, in the Germany also. So whenever people found that the Napoleonic army is entering in their area, people's reactions were mixed. Reactions of the local people were mixed. Why their reactions were mixed? Because in the initial period, people thought that Napoleonic army is the harbinger for them. It means they will liberate the common people from the despotic rule, from the monarchs, from the rulers, and so they enjoyed the freedom established by the Napoleon also, and welcomed the Napoleonic army in their own regions. But very soon they found that their civil liberties, their freedom is curbed by the Napoleon. Why? Because one side he provided the freedom for the production, for the trade activity, but on the another hand he increased the taxes. Taxations were increased. Second thing was that civil liberties were curbed. Why? There was a censorship imposed on the social media. So people could not spread their ideas through the newspapers, through the social media. So it was also the control over their civil liberty. And third thing was that, and next was that common people of the France were forcefully recruited in the French army. For what they were recruited forcefully in the French army? To conquer the rest of the European part under the Napoleonic control. So these were the many of the ideas which could develop the idea of nationalism during the period of 1789 to 1790. As you would think that Napoleonic code or the Napoleonic administrative system, they did not go hand in hand. One side he provided the freedom for the trade business activity, but another side also curbed the civil liberties of the common people, forcefully recruited in the forcefully recruited them in the French army. It means these both things did not go hand in hand. It created the problem, but problems were created by the Napoleon. But whatever changes were made by the Napoleon, whatever ideas, administrative systems were changed, uniform systems of weights and measures were introduced, These all ideas could develop the idea of nationalism, could create the sense of nationalism among the French people, indirectly helped the people of the France to develop the idea of nationalism during that period. Thank you. Have a nice day.